Okay, so here we are back for part 3, the finality. So I got my motor mount all set up and put on the scooter. And just to give you an overview, this is a toucan scooter from Belize Bikes in the province of Quebec in Canada. It has 16-inch wheels. Used to have a rear brake right down here, which I have removed, but it has a front brake and grips and all that good stuff. And the deck has been replaced. I took off the one that came with it, which is narrow, just the width of the frame, and I put in a wider deck so you can stand 2 feet side by side. But anyway, onto the motor and the hookup here, I used the 2 screws that came with it to mount it to my motor mount. One there and one down there, just drilled through the steel. I just got a piece of plate, cold rolled steel, 1 1/4 inch, and bent it into a hoop, and then mounted it onto the rear frame. And the position I got for the rear frame is defined by the level of the fuel tank, because as you wear the tire down with friction, you're going to want to crank the motor backwards towards the tire for better traction, until of course the tire's bald, and then you replace it and crank it back again. So anyway, so what I did was I went and I looked at the level of the fuel tank, because if you're cranking it back, it's going to bring the front end of the engine up, and then you're only going to be able to use half the fuel before you run out of gas. So this way, it's just forward of level now with a brand new tire. So as you crank it back, it will level out the fuel tank, and you'll be able to run the whole tank empty. As far as the throttle assembly goes, I used the rear brake cable, took it off of the brake, and put a loop in it with one of these wire pinchers. And then I went back to my weed whacker control handle, and I took off the throttle cable and hooked it back in up here where it hooks in, right up there. And then I shortened it, put a loop in it, and interlooped it. Where are we here? Where's my finger? Oh God, okay. There we are, okay. And I looped it into the top loop of the other one, and away we go. Now there is a spring return on the original throttle, so when you pull the rear brake handle, it's your throttle. So that's how you speed it up and slow it down. As far as pressure goes against the rear wheel, I got a turnbuckle here. I'm just gonna pull this little guy out and turn them around here so you can see. Okay, so I got a turnbuckle there, and I mounted it into the actual steel hoop, and then I spaced it out with washers so it would be in more or less a straight line back to my rear mount point. Now this one has a little bit of a bend in the threads, which is no big deal. And then I made an extension to the rear wheel hub nut and drilled a hole in it and pinched the turnbuckle through with a nut and bolt and some washers. And they're all lock nuts, like nylon lock nuts, so they're not going to back off. And then you use an 11mm open end wrench to turn that turnbuckle to pull it tighter further backwards against the tire, or conversely to release the pressure to either take the tire off, wheel off, whatever. Or if you, my suggestion would be to carry one with you if you're going for a long ride, so you can tighten it up as you go if you need to, or if you run out of fuel or something, you can back it right off and ride it like a normal scooter with no pressure on the tire. So that's pretty much it. I haven't run it yet, but I'm pretty confident it's going to go, because we got some rain. So Anything like rain or sand or that sort of stuff will affect the performance because it's friction. So you got to be aware of that. And I hope you build one. They're an absolute riot. And I figure with this spindle, this baby's going to go at least 40-45 miles an hour. So, for God's sakes, wear a helmet and gloves. And if it's a kid, put some knee pads and elbow pads on like you would if you were skateboarding, and keep your eyes on them, and they'll have lots of fun. Hope you enjoyed it and you get going on one. Take care for now.